Hello and welcome to Northwest Knitting. My name is Kathy and this is my knitting podcast where I like to talk to you about my knitting projects, yarn, fibers, and my goals to make more sustainable clothing for myself and others. I live in Eugene, Oregon in the Willamette Valley, and we have had some really horrible weather recently. Very hot weather, over 100 degrees, and some of that was combined with smoke that required us to be inside with the windows closed because of the forest fires in not all that far away. We're not even remotely in danger, but it's close enough to really make the air nasty. And that's happening a lot in the Northwest and in other places as well. So I hope for you, you're having some nice clear weather. But then the horrible weather was followed by some gorgeous weather in the 70s and 80s, and we were able to have the windows open all day long and not have to close up to keep things cool. So that was really lovely. I had a birthday. It was a small celebration with my daughter and her husband and the baby, who's getting close to a year old. That was so much fun. Although we were stuck inside, that was the worst smoke day. But we still went out to dinner later and really had a great time. Then my husband had his birthday. It was a big milestone, and we had about 30 people come over, and there was cake for me, and then there was more cake for Dennis, and we've really had a good time. Books were exchanged by me and him, which I'll tell you about at the end. And anyway, it has the very, very hot weather is challenging, and then when the skies clear and it cools down, it's just fabulous. I actually put a sweater on yesterday morning, and that felt fantastic. So anyway, that's what's going on here. My other big news that I don't want to leave to the end because I don't want to forget about it is I signed up for my very first knitting retreat. And I didn't have any plans for it, but I saw on Instagram one day that there was a knitting retreat planned in Port Townsend, Washington. And that is a reasonable distance from me. It'll take me probably 5 hours to get there, but doable. And Port Townsend is a sweet little bay town, and I've been wanting to go back. I haven't been there in quite a few years. So anyway, when I saw that, I was intrigued, and the name of the retreat is called Shetland Wool Weekend, and it's celebrating American-grown Shetland wool. So this is September 29th to October 1st, so it's Friday through Sunday. And it's being put on by Bazaar Girls. So if you look up bazaargirls.com, you will find information about the retreat if you're at all interested. And if any of you do go, please chat with me because that would be so fun. Anyway, lodging's a bit spendy. I wish I had noticed when it first came out, and I still maybe even before I post this, I might do another search about lodging. It would be very nice to be right downtown This is a very tiny town. It would not be that big of a hardship to get in a car and drive to a slightly more reasonably priced place. But so right now I'm downtown. A lot of small hotels will put their rooms on Airbnb, and I found a room that way. So, but still more than I'm used to spending. But it's for me, this is just I've never done it, and I was hearing somebody talk about a knitting retreat. It sounded so fun. And a friend of mine is planning to go to Shetland Wool Week in Shetland, on the Shetland Islands. And I've really been feeling like, oh, I wish I could go. But one European trip a year is definitely the max for me. But anyway, so here's this. I'm really looking forward to it. I think some of the yarns they're talking about are elemental effects, which I actually happen to have quite a bit of. Jorstad Creek and a company I haven't heard of, I think it's American Shetland. So some of the things they're doing, so obviously it's a short retreat. They're calling it a mini retreat. And I think on Friday afternoon is a color work afternoon for everybody, and the next day there are some workshops, stranded knitting, Shetland lace knitting, spinning, steeking, and finishing your stranded work. So anyway, I am very, very excited about that. That is something for me to look forward to. Just having people to talk to who are similarly obsessed is always fun. Okay, so I want to tell you what I'm wearing. As I talked about this last episode. I'm actually coming on much earlier than I usually do. I did my last one only 13 days ago. The reason I'm coming on now is that I have a baby sweater that I finished that I am going to take with me this coming weekend to Seattle, and I'd like to give it to Ellie at that point. So I wanted to show that, and I thought, well, I do have enough to talk about for at least a shorter episode. So that's why I've come on a little earlier than usual. So I'm wearing my third Ranunculus by Midori Hirose, also known as Knit Cafe Midori. And I did this in Queensland United yarn, half cotton, half wool. And it is, I think, marked as a sport weight. I think of it more as a fingering weight. But it's fingering sport. And I did hold it together for this project. I did it on 10.5 needles. The pattern gauge is 14 stitches to the inch, and even doing it very loosely, I still came up with something like 16 stitches to the inch. Anyway, I don't know that there's anything too new to report since my last one. I left my, I didn't weave in all the ends because when I first tried it on, and maybe I did try it on before blocking, and I thought, is this really how long I mean for it to be? This is shorter than many of the things you've seen me wear. And I was a little worried about, it coming up like that. You know how people, and the lovely Ranunculus yoke, if you haven't tried it, It is a very straightforward pattern, and she has every single step of the way here. She has a good tutorial, and it's very, very enjoyable to learn. The little things you're learning are very easy, very straightforward, and I think it's just giving you some, if you haven't done much of this texture work, it's something that might give you a little more confidence to do more. So, you know how people talk about cropped, they're always saying, I'm going to wear it with a high-waisted skirt or a high-waisted pants. I don't really have like high-waisted, or I'm not, I don't have options here usually. But this top did give me some questions about what it looks good with, and I have a gathered skirt that I thought I would wear it with, and it actually doesn't look all that great with it. So anyway, I'm still kind of learning about doing something a little more crop, but I have to say I do kind of like it. So it works well with this pair of pants, and I have another, for some reason, I have two pairs of navy blue linen pants, both pretty old, but hanging in this the ones I'm wearing right now, I got at J. Jill, and I'm sure that I've had them for at least 8 years, and I wear the heck out of them. The linen is just not wearing out. It's really good. And I think over time, it's a little less wrinkly. The pants always get kind of wrinkly around where you're sitting, but in the summer, it just feels so good to wear linen. So anyway, this goes with those two. And so the question is, am I making it longer, or even making the sleeves longer? Because now where there's, it's already getting cooler. I don't know. So I think I might leave it for now, put the yarn, I do have quite a bit of yarn left over, put it away, and I'll be able to wear this for a while longer, and maybe even over another top when I want some nice turquoise, a shot of turquoise in the winter. So that was a fun thing, and went very quickly, of course, on those big needles. So what I'm really happy about, though, is I told you last time I talked at some length about my new book that I got called Making Memories, Timeless Knits for Children by Claudia Quintanilla. And I was showing you some of the patterns, and I told you that this is the one that I wanted to make. It's called Wheat. I go through this book in a lot of detail in my last episode, so if you want to see that, you could go to my I think this one I'm doing right now is episode 26, and if you look at episode 25, and it starts in the middle about at 26 minutes in, and you can see me showing all the different pictures from the book. So anyway, I really had fun doing wheat, and there is nothing, I'll show you the thing, so I stop fiddling around. So here is the finished product. Not a product, just a nice sweater. And here's the back. And you can see it's just such a sweet texture there. And there we go. It's really easy. It's just, you do some purl stitches, you do yarn overs, knit two together, slip, knit. It is just nothing complicated. The chart It's both charted and written out. Personally, I like I like the chart because I get more of a visual and almost, well, I did need it even towards the end. I still wouldn't go ahead without glancing at the chart at least. But anyway, it was a very enjoyable knit. This is bottom-up sweater, and I'd say at least half of the sweaters in the book are bottom-up. Most of them, or many of them, use DK weight yarn. So as I was showing you last time, I got a yarn in DK weight to try out. This one I knit in Sandnes Garn Smart, which is a superwash DK yarn, Norwegian, and I talked quite a bit about that actually in my last episode too. But I was talking about how this seemed like a pretty good option for superwash, although I am keeping my eyes open for something even more environmentally friendly. But this is I feel pretty good about this one. The yarn is a tiny bit splitty, excuse me, and every once in a while, but I still enjoyed working with it. And to me, it almost feels a little thicker than DK. Let me just see here. What did I knit it. Oh yeah, okay. I wanted to tell you that the gauge is about 5 stitches to the inch, so about 21 stitches for 4 inches, and I used size 6 needles and then 5s for the ribbing. So I was pretty happy with this. Also, I used I made size 2. Sometimes, you know, when you're looking at baby sizes, now when you look at ready-made clothes and baby clothes, the sizes are all over the map. There seems to be nothing standard about them, really, which I've been discovering with my granddaughters. And I don't know if it's a little bit more consistent with the knitting patterns or not, but sometimes I'm looking at it and what's sized for about 2. This child is 2.5. Feels really big to me, but then the granddaughters tend to be lanky, and so what I've been doing is I made a size 2, but then I added about 1 inch in the sleeves and 1 inch in the length, because it seems that they outgrow it lengthwise, not widthwise mostly. So anyway, this was really fun, and I'm looking forward to making more patterns out of that book. Let's see if I can think of anything else I wanted to say. I wanted to tell you about the sleeves. I have not done this, but I have been seeing that some designers are leaving the sleeves open. So, but when you join for sleeves, when you join for sleeves, they're putting some of the stitches, most of the stitches up for the sleeve, they're putting on waste yarn. I'm putting them on my barber cords, and then leaving the very bottom under here at the bottom there open, and then with the plan being that you're grafting together the two sides at the end. And so I was a little uncertain about doing that, so I looked for YouTube, and I'll put a link down below. Anything I say that I talk about will be on the mentioned in the show notes. And I found well, actually, there's quite a few YouTube channels or episodes that you can find if you start roaming around. The one I liked the best was called Magic House or some Crafthouse Magic. I just like how she explained it, and what she did is, you know, when you get to the sleeve, and there's usually on both sides there's a bigger loop there, and what to do with that. And so she went in and she actually picked that up and knitted through the back loop as she, you know, before she started grafting, picked up all the stitches or knitted all along, picked up that loop again on the other side, knitted through the back loop, and then she grafted. And grafting is just Kitchener stitch. So if you've done socks and you've done the toe, you can do that. And that part, I actually feel like I made a change. I felt like I was able to do better on the Kitchener and didn't have to keep listening to somebody's instruction when I did it. So that felt pretty good, and I did like the graft. And see if I can show how it looks. Yeah, it looks pretty good there. So anyway, that was one thing that I hadn't done that was kind of new. Looks okay. Good enough for the underarm, I think. But anyway, I think that's about it for that one. I was very, very happy with that. So the other thing I'm working on, oh my gosh, I thought I almost forgot it. I told you last time that I was going to be doing the Sorgenfri Foldover. It's called Sorgenfri Jacket on Ravelry. It's this one by Indiblomst. And she, I think, is Norwegian, and there are some things about the pattern and some of the things that she writes that I feel like haven't been, are just unfamiliar to me. I didn't realize till the other day that I hadn't noticed that when she was talking about sizing and she had chest width, that it was centimeters, not inches. Whew. But it's not a problem. This is for a baby that was just born a couple days ago, and the mother had on the registry had put the registry where you say some of the things that if people want to buy a gift, they could go on the registry and get some ideas of what you're interested in. And she had put that the baby's signature color was marigold. So even though the baby's name is not Marigold in my head, I keep saying baby marigold. But anyway, just born. So I picked the size. The sizes go newborn, 3 to 6 months, 9 to 12 months, 18 to 24, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. And then I think she has a child's version on Ravelry, and she uses the texture pattern on an adult sweater as well. And so on this one, I am using I think I'm using size 3 needles. So I'm using the same yarn. I'm using the Sandnes Garn Smart in ochre, and I have really been enjoying this. I did this sweater last summer and I did it in cotton, and oh my gosh, even though the cotton was pretty nice, it just isn't the same, and I just love how the wool is nice and full. So anyway, here, let's see if I can show this. So this is going to fold over like that. Okay. Let's see if I can get some of this out so you're not too distracted. But isn't that a really, I just love that texture. And I'm really enjoying the yarn. I hope I'm not looking too washed out today, because it's looking, it might be because I'm doing this a little bit earlier in the morning, and also the light has been changing. So anyway, I hope I'm not washed out here. But I think it does look pretty accurate for the color. I'm really enjoying it because as you know, if you've watched me before, you know, I don't really go with the warm autumnal colors very much. But I am really enjoying working on this as a change of pace. So, and here's the back. So actually I've divided for sleeves. I have, oh gosh, maybe I have like another 4 or 5 inches to do here. I remember for the last one that I thought the sleeves were really tiring, even though they're for a little baby, but I'm hoping with the wool it won't feel so troublesome to do. But anyway, I really have just been moving quickly on this and really enjoying it. And then I'm actually going to make another one, because the baby that was born is the daughter of a very close friend of my daughter, and so who has the 1-year-old, and so I'm making one in this color, which I believe is light copper in the Sandnes Garn Smart. So I thought it would be fun. They're not going to be matching, but they'll be similar. So anyway, that has just been very, very enjoyable. So last time I talked to you, it was so hot. I was planning on making one more summer sweater, but now there's a Christmas in the air, and now I have this retreat to go to, and I'm switching gears. So I want you to know I bought the pattern. I believe it was for the, I think it was the Wiley. Was it the Wiley? Willa Tee. And I talked about it before, and I really like the pattern. I like the yarn, but I'm not sure I'm going to do it right now because it's getting close to the end of August, and I would like to be working on wool, maybe have even a Shetland wool sweater by the time I go to the little retreat in Port Townsend. So I'm shifting gears, and I hope you can just listen to what I'm saying as something interesting. And some of these projects I'll finish, or some I won't, or I'll finish much later. But I do have several things I'm thinking about, and I've already talked to you about them. One is the Alpine tee, because I think that would be fun. I've talked about the Calypso sweater. I've thought about, I'll put these all in the show notes. And, but I also have a pattern from my Shetland Wool Week book from 2020, and I'm leaning towards that. The only thing is the other two are top down, and I really do enjoy the rhythm of the top down. I like doing the yoke at the beginning, because when I do the yoke and it looks good, then I feel like I can slog through all that stockinette afterwards, and I feel this is great, and I can keep trying it on, and I feel happy about the colors I've picked and so forth. But what I found with the when I was doing wheat, unfortunately it was a baby sweater, so I didn't have to slog in the stockinette for too long. But just doing the stockinette, I was like, am I ever going to get to the fun part? So anyway, we'll see. Some people like to have the treat at the end. And some people are also, I've heard, convinced that sweaters fit better. So I don't know, but there are some really lovely bottom-up sweaters, and I just would like to not feel impeded by whether it's top down or bottom up. So anyway, so that's what I'm planning next. Let me tell you about a few things, and then this is going to end a little earlier than usual. Probably not, because I'll just keep talking. And then anyway, I got some books for my birthday, and one of them was Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. It's a brand new book, just came out in 2023. I am a big fan of hers. I pretty much will read anything that she comes out with. And even though I normally try to not have too many hardbacks because they take up too much space, and sometimes they're hard to hold, there's others that I just can't live without, and I know I want them. I want my own copy. So anyway, I did get Tom Lake, and I just finished it yesterday, and I loved it. It was so enjoyable. I had just finished a pretty grim book, and even though every book, of course, any book that has any meaning is filled with life and death and some sadness, and I have no problem with that. The last one I read was grim. I'll talk about that in a minute. But this one is the story of a woman who has 3 grown daughters, and it takes place during COVID. They don't really talk about COVID. They live on a farm. It's a cherry orchard. And all 3 daughters come home for COVID and help on the farm, both for them to have a place to stay. I think she doesn't really talk much about it. It's really not about COVID, but it's about how even in the terrible times of COVID, many people got to have their kids come home, and it was joyous. I'm sure it wasn't joyous for everybody in the world who had their kids come home, but for some people it was really wonderful. And so they are picking cherries during a lot of this story, and the mother is telling them a story of her when she was a young adult, about their age probably. And one of the things was that she did, well, the biggest thing she did is that she got into acting, and a lot of the story takes place during in the summer at a lake called Tom Lake, and in New England, New Hampshire, I think. And there is like a summer stock play, and she's in the play. So it's a combination of her living in the present with her girls, and then her telling the story, so going back to the past when she's acting and her relationships with people. And I really enjoyed it. It was such a lovely respite for me from my last book. I loved being in the world she was talking about. There was a lot of love, which I can't get too much of. It was really lovely. The play being put on is Our Town by Thornton Wilder, and that won the Pulitzer Prize, I think, back in the late 30s. And many of us read it when we were in high school. And I had read it in high school. I think one reason they read it is not just because it's a Pulitzer Prize, and it is really a brilliant story. But also you can read it very quickly. It's a play. It reads very quickly. There are no complicated words in that book. It is that play. It is a very simple, straightforward story, and sometimes I think the best joys are in the simple things, and I really feel like that. So I got the book. We actually had it on our shelves, and I had my name written in it, and I paid 55 cents for the book. So that gives you an idea of how old that book is. And quickly read it in a day, here and there. And it was really lovely. And even though I don't think you need to read the play at all to appreciate the Tom Lake, it does just add another dimension to it. There's also mention of Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, which I've never seen, and I have thought about reading that to see. I kind of wish I had taken the time to read that before I read the book. Sometimes if you, read a variety of things, or, one book leads you to another, I find that it really is enriching. It's a good experience. So that was really fun. Another thing I got that I haven't really gotten into too much is I did request, or I had a wish list, and my son and his wife gave me the Journal of Scottish Yarn. It's called Yarn. It's issue 3, Spring and Summer 2023. You've probably seen it around. It's that fun cover. And there's quite a lot in here about the linen industry that historically in Scotland. And there's a lot of meat to this book. You can see it's pretty thick. It's not just, there are knitting and crochet patterns in here, but it's definitely got a lot to read here. Anyway, here's an article, Sowing the Seeds of Change by Juliet MacDonald. And it is about people at Edinburgh College of Art at the University of Edinburgh who have begun to explore how designers might contribute to rethinking the role of textiles in reducing the damage attributable to the fashion industry. So that's right up my alley and something I want to hear more about. And yeah, there's just a lot in here, quite a bit about linen in this one. And just, there's weaving. There's some beautiful pictures in here about weaving and knitting. There's a whole big article about working without a pattern and improvising. That'll be fun to read. And then there are patterns. And some of these look really fun. One that I'm real interested in, because I love how when people intersperse the mohair with non-mohair. And here's a top called Fawnin Top by Cat Weaver of Heather and Hops. And it has some wavy layers. It's not really, I have to say the pictures, I like the pictures. Oh, here's a good one. Some of them, because of the low contrast, are hard to see. Although low contrast is right up my alley, but here's one. Here's the Fawnin Top. You can see it has some kind of a little bit of a bell sleeve, and there's another one here, but this one's really low contrast. Can you see that one? Harder to see, definitely. But I love how that would look low contrast. She gives quite a few options. It's knit in the round from the top down, waves of alternating Surrey silk and main color stripes in DK weight yarn. So that would be very, very, very fun. Here it is again, a little more clear. And definitely if you go on Ravelry, you can see some options. So the other thing is she has things that you can choose while making the top. One is, like for the sleeves, you can make bishop sleeves, you can make short sleeves, or you could make 3/4 length bell sleeves. I think when she says bishop sleeve, she might be talking about this, right? And this is the bell sleeve, I think. So anyway, that's kind of fun. But then there's quite a few others. There's a seeded fern wrap. There, which they have in quite a few colors. Ooh, that's pretty. Ooh. Those colors look not too far off from what I'm working on. There's a nice shawl, looks like brioche. Not really my deal, but look at how pretty that is. I did learn brioche, I just don't feel motivated enough for reasons. Now, the other thing is there is some crochet. I'm pretty sure that's the crochet one. And I don't know. I hope this is there's a bag in here. Oh, here's a fun top. So, I think I told you last time I've begun listening to a podcast called I Thought I Knew How, and it's an audio. Here's another crochet. That's a hap. So that's kind of fun. You might not see haps much if you're a crocheter, so that might be a nice option. Oh, and I really like this. So that actually is tempting. They're calling it a top because it's short sleeve, but I can't see any reason why we couldn't do. Here's another color variation. It's really sweet and delicate, and I like the flowers. I really do like the flowers on that. Oh, and you know what I like here? Can you see the bottom line? There we go. I really like it when things are a little, that was a little light. Oh, the sun went behind the clouds. I really think that's lovely. So I might have to make the neck smaller on that one, but that is really appealing. Sometimes I look at color projects and I don't like on stranded work, and I don't like everything. I just I like a lot of the beginning, like the Alpine tee. I'm not that crazy about the last row, and I've thought about how I could modify that. But oh, and one last thing is the Robosh shawl. And I think people are doing a cowl for that somewhere. It's designed by Allison Main. And that is very lovely. So I think, yeah, I think that's that. So anyway, there was an interlude. I didn't mean to go down that road. I want to tell you about 2 more books. How did I get, oh, I was talking about gifts. That's how I got on this. Okay, 2 more books are, I read a book called Pastoral Song by James Rebanks. And you might remember I reviewed a book of his, I think in the winter, and he wrote a book called The Shepherd's Life. And this one, Pastoral Song, he's really talking more about learning the old ways of farming from his grandfather and how things had changed so much during his father's generation. And he was trying to bring things back and go back to the old ways of his grandfather on the piece of property. So he actually has his grandfather's farm, and also worked with some people who were trying to bring back the old ways for environmental reasons. The old ways in farming, he would argue, are much better for the planet, make more sense, better keep the animals, having hedgerows and just all kinds of things that his grandfather taught him that he's trying to return to. So that's really a lovely book. And then I will just mention in without too much detail, it's a book I thought that was a very, very good book, but the hard book, and in some ways brutal, really, was A Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Marra. Anthony Marra recently read a book that I think I talked about maybe this spring, called Mercury something presents. Anyway, A Constellation of Vital Phenomena is really challenging because it's about takes place during the Chechenian War, and it's about a man trying to save a young girl whose father has been taken away and killed. The reasons are really, he doesn't really talk much about the reasons. I think he's been, he doesn't talk about the politics. He doesn't really talk much about the war or why it's going on. It's just horrific for the people who are trying to live and survive. And so he goes and takes her early on in the book, so I don't think I'm giving too much up. He takes her to a hospital, and there is a woman doctor working there, and she's the only doctor at the hospital. So it's for me, it's a beautifully written book, but it is tough. I just saw it was a squirrel, but when it first appeared, I thought, what kind of rodent is that? But it's a squirrel. It's okay. Whew. We have tons of squirrels around here. Right now, they are slowly decimating my sunflowers. So we have a lot of sunflowers that just come on because we put out sunflower seeds for the birds, and they just flower for us in different places around the yard. And I really like it because they just pop up any old place, and I usually leave them because they're so fun. And unfortunately, though, the kind of sunflower they are really does make an edible head. And the birds love it, of course, but the squirrels just decimate them. And they've been slow. So there's one head and it has all the petals coming. And the squirrels have just been every day working systematically. Every day it's just a little less of fewer petals. And we go out and try and scare them away, and they just come back. And so I'm pretty sure that one will be gone by the end of the day. But it was nice when it was first blooming and before the seeds became more edible. Well, I have talked way more than I expected, given I didn't have too much to talk about with the knitting, but I will be back. I will probably come on one more time before I leave for the retreat, and I'm hoping to have some fun things to show you then. I hope you're really having a wonderful time. I hope your weather is not bad. I know there's just so much of it everywhere, but I hope you're having a respite, and I hope that you're having some crafting that is giving you joy. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and happy knitting.